Hey guys, what's up? It's Spartacus here. So I couldn't quite get to all the TGT reviews. Frankly, there are just way too many cards coming out way too rapidly. So basically, now that it's been announced that it's coming out on the 24th, so in 5 days, which is pretty exciting, I'm going to go over the 10 cards I think will have the biggest impact on the constructed metagame. So these aren't necessarily, these pretty well are the best cards. Um, but I think that there might be some cards that are a little better, but these ones are going to have like the biggest impact on the game. They're going to change around the meta a little bit. There are going to be more than just these cards that are going to be in the meta game, but these are the ones that can generally reshape or create new decks. So let's just kick it right off. The first one is Totem Golem, the 2 mana 3/4 Shaman card, Overload 1. Essentially, Shaman's got a fair amount of good cards actually in this expansion, which is good because Shaman's a class that just really suffered lately. So, they needed a bunch of new cards. And of all the cards, this is the one that's really going to do it for them. The 2 mana 3/4 is just insane stats, and the fact that it's Overload 1 on turn 3 isn't even that big a deal because they can still play like another 2-drop or they can use a totem. And it's looking like totems are going to start to get more value. Using your hero power is going to start to get more value. So this card in general is just very strong. And it's really the driving force of all the new Shaman cards that might be able to make mid-range or Totem Shaman a thing. And I think it will be. And, maybe not the best deck, but it'll be viable. And I think this is really the main card that does it for them. Okay, so next card, the Darnassus Aspirant. Druid card, 2 mana, 2/3, Battle Cry, gain an empty mana crystal, Death Rattle, lose an empty mana crystal. So this will go into like combo, maybe ramp Druid, mostly combo Druid. And while you might say like, oh, it's just a different card that goes into an already existing deck, it actually can really change matchups. Two of the matchups that Druid just has a really tough time with are Tempo/Mech Mage and Mid-Range Hunter. Mid-Range Hunter freezing traps just absolutely destroy Druid. Unless you have a Force of Nature, you can't really get rid of it efficiently, and you have to wait till turn 6 to do that, which is really rough. And then for the Tempo Mages and Mech Mages, Mirror Entity is a huge issue. For the most part, if you would run a Zombie Chow, that would work, but this really works well against Mirror Entity, being able to remove one of their mana crystals, and they don't get the Battle Cry from this card. And then against Freezing Trap, you just get the empty mana crystal, but since your minion gets returned to your hand and doesn't die, you don't lose a mana crystal. So even though you lose a minion off the board, you don't lose a mana crystal, so you kind of have like a decent trade-off there. And this card in general just really helps improve Druid, because Druid right now, like, they have so many big drops, but a lot of times they just have 2 mana floating around, and then they have to hero power, and they don't, do anything with that mana. They just hero power and hit face. I've been running like an Ooze or maybe a couple Recombobulators in my Druid decks, and it's been working out really well. And I think people are going to realize that putting in this specific card, this card I'll replace over Recombobulators, this card specifically, just really allows you to curve out and use all your mana more efficiently. So I really think that this is going to make Combo Druid just a little stronger. It is very strong right now. It's not quite up there. It's going to get a little bit stronger, which is, not bad. Okay, next card is Fencing Coach. 3 mana, 2/2, Battle Cry. The next time you use your hero power, it costs 2 less. This is basically allows you to bank a hero power and use it whenever you want for free. And essentially, the reason this card is the big meta changer is because, well, there are a lot of very good looking Inspire cards. Most of them all seem very slow. This card, if Inspire decks are going to work, they're going to run 2 of these. This card is going to allow you to play that Nexus Champion Sarad on turn 5 and then, hero power immediately. It's going to allow you to get these Inspire combos off without being slow. And 3 mana 2/2, while not good, at least it's a body. It does something. It challenges Knife Jugglers. It challenges some aggro cards. So it's not awful. And if Inspire decks are going to work, and I'm not sure that they will yet, but if like an Inspire-centric deck is going to work, this card is going to be in that deck. 2 of them. For sure. There's no doubt in my mind. So that's why this card may have a big impact on the metagame. It's kind of that card that might allow the decks to run. Okay, Argent Horse Rider is my next one. Now, Argent Horse Rider might seem a little unimpressive. 3 mana, 2/1, Divine Shield and Charge. The reason I put this card in here is because it's really this whole, what's it called? Expansion has been very slow, and I like that because fast decks are just really annoying. They haven't really added to fast classes. This is the only card they've added, really. This card is going to replace Wolf Rider in face decks. It's going to be very, very good for hitting face. 3 mana, and most of the time you can guarantee to get off 4 damage. Either 2 mana, 2 damage to face, and then they'll have to ping it. It's just very difficult to remove, very annoying to remove. And honestly, I think it's going to be powerful. I really, I don't know how high others are on this card, but I know it'll be in Face Hunter. I'm certain of that, and it'll allow Face Hunter and fast face-ish decks to still exist because it's a step up for them, and that's why it's here. Basically, I'm just trying to say that while this whole expansion is slow, Face isn't going to go away. It's always going to be viable. Either with the original cards, and this card makes some of those decks even just a little bit better, which they might need. Okay, next card here is Mulch. 3 mana Druid card, destroy a minion, add a random minion to your opponent's hand. So, I think this card will allow for just a lot of different Druid decks to exist, because the idea with Druid, even with Ramp Druid, is just get the board, ramp up, get your minions out before your opponent, and then keep playing minions and minions and minions, and then kill them, right? You have no way to play defensively. You have to play proactively, and Mulch is a card that allows you to play defensively. It's finally a card that they have Naturalize, which is also removal, but it's at such a big cost. It's actually it's a tempo card. Naturalize. It isn't a control card. This is a control card. You destroy a minion, you add a random minion to your opponent's hand, but almost all the time that minion is going to be worse than the average minion or the average minion you put in a constructed deck. It's going to be average, which is not good enough for constructed. Not only that, but you can't think of it like Unstable Portal, because Unstable Portal gives you the minion with the mana decrease cost, so sometimes that's really advantageous. You get an Ironbark Protector, and then on turn 4 you have an Ironbark. If they get an Ironbark Protector, they'll still have to play it for 8 mana. So it's not even, this card, I haven't seen a lot of talk about it, but I think it's really, really powerful. All the Druids have right now is Big Game Hunter, and that only targets the 7+ attack things. If you put a Kel'Thuzad down against Druids, they're just screwed. This card just allows Druids to do so much more than they've ever been allowed to do, and it's possible that Druids can start to move a little more defensively. I really do think that, at least I'm going to try and build Druids that are just a little more defensive. They have cards to do that. A Volcanic Lumberer is a card that I think is really powerful, but just doesn't have a place because, it's just too slow and whatnot. Druids have good slow cards, and it would be nice to build a deck that is slow for Druid, and this card is really important for that. And I think that even in the faster Druids, this might see play simply for a tempo play. You use 3 mana to remove something that they played for 8 mana, for example, and that's really strong. So I think that Mulch is going to see a lot of play, and I think it actually could create a different archetype for Druid. Maybe go in that Beast Druid or whatever. It would be nice to see a different archetype for Druid, because Druid, whenever you go up against it, you pretty well know what you're going to face. Okay, so moving along here, Twilight Guardian. Twilight Guardian is basically, it's a 4 mana, let's just read the stats. A 4 mana 2/4 Battlecry if you're holding a dragon, gain +1 attack and taunt. It's basically that 4 mana dragon that everyone needed in order to make dragon decks work. So the big complaint after Blackrock Mountain was that there just wasn't a 4 mana dragon. There was Twilight Drake, but that never quite felt good enough. It just felt too slow against a lot of decks. If you're not building up a big hand, that's just going to be a 4/5. It's not going to do quite enough. And then there was Hungry Dragon, which gave your opponent initiative, and it was too random and just actually wasn't that great of a card. Twilight Dragon, I think, is that 4-drop now, finally. The Taunt allows you to stop the aggressive decks, so you can build a dragon deck, because dragon decks are always going to be very control-heavy. But this is a card that's anti-aggro. 3/6 taunt is very good for 4 mana, so I really think that this card is that 4-drop that Dragon decks need, and if Dragon decks are going to work, it's going to be because of this card, and maybe because of another one that I'll talk about. But this is really the big one, the really important card for Dragon decks. Speaking of Dragon decks, Chillmaw here, 7 mana, 6/6, taunt, death rattle. If you're holding a dragon, deal 3 damage to all minions. So this is another dragon card that might allow dragon decks to work, and here's why. Again, dragon decks just have a tough time. They're just a little too slow a lot of the time. Like you expect them to win in control matchups, but there's just so much aggro and mid-range out there that it's really tough. This, not only can it just destroy the patrons, it's got taunt, it's 6/6, it can't get big game hunted. It's a lower cost dragon, which is really important. It's not, one of those, because all the dragons are like 9 mana, so you have a 7/1, that's really nice. Not only that, but you can kind of like do some tricky things, because you have to be holding a dragon, so you can kind of like, play some mind games with your opponent and stuff like that. It's a really high skill card in that way, which I like about it. But I think that along with the Twilight Guardian are the two cards that will allow us to hopefully see dragon decks. I really do think that dragon decks will exist, and even if they aren't the best, I think they'll still be viable. And those two cards are the reason why. And Chillmaw is really just a very good card. Really cool looking card too. I mean, the artwork, and if you've seen the animation, just really interesting. Very cool. Okay, number 2, like this is in no specific order, is the Ram Wrangler. 5 mana, 3/3 battle cry. If you have a beast, summon a random beast. So right now it's just like mid-range and phase hunter, and there's some beast synergy in mid-range hunter, but I'd like to see even a slower hunter, and they're really pushing an even slower hunter in at least Blizzard is. And if there's any card that's going to do it, it's going to be this one. This is a high tempo card, yes, but it's also, it's 5 mana. Like, it's not fast. You can't say that. It's like we could see it play in mid-range hunter, but even in more like heavy mid-range hunter, like much less front end, much more back end. And I think this card is the card that would push it over the edge, to be completely honest. The Cavern Brawl is out right now, and we're doing the, Mage against Hunter or whatnot. This card is insane. It really is. If you look at the averages of the beasts, there's 40 beasts, and like very few of them are like really bad. Most of even if you get like, I don't know, like a 3/3 Iron Fear out of this, or Iron Fear Grizzly, it's still a 5 mana 6/6, right? But there's just so many more like top end beasts that you can get, and it's not unreasonable to expect that you will get them. It's kind of like Bane of Doom, and Bane of Doom is seeing play, and I think this card will too. And I really do think that we could see a more beast centric, slower hunter. It's not going to be really slow. This card is a really high tempo card. There's no denying of that. But it's going to be like, play a beast, kind of set up things, and then hit the board hard. Right now, mid-range hunter kind of does that, but it only does that with one card, 7 mana high main. It just like tries to get the board and then slam high main on you. This might even be slower, and I think that deck could easily exist. And that's exciting. And obviously there are even slower cards like Lock and Load, etc. that they brought into Hunter, and we'll see if that kind of deck works out. I would just love to see Beast Hunter back again. Since the Unleash Buzzard nerf, it just hasn't been around. It'd be really cool to see that, and if Beast Hunter is going to work, this is the card that's going to do it. Okay, and then last, but obviously certainly not least, is Varian Wrynn here. Varian Wrynn is just going to make Control Warriors that much better. Also change the builds of them slightly. You're going to have less Battlecry cards in your... So let's just go over the card. 10 mana, 7/7. Battlecry, draw 3 cards, put any minions you drew directly into the battlefield. So let's just think of this as like you don't draw any minions. 10 mana, 7/7, you draw spells, weapons, whatever. Draw 3 cards. That's still really good. Think about like this. Lay on Hands is 8 mana, heal for 8, and then draw 3 cards. This is 10 mana. You can kind of say heal for 7, because you have 7 health, and it'll have to get hit by something, but not really. It's better than heal for 8. I guess depending on your situation, it might not be, but most of the time, 7/7 body is better. And then you draw 3 cards, but obviously you have the advantage of if you draw like a Belcher, putting it into play, that is insane. That is so unbelievably great. That is like tempo for Control Warriors. Um, and it'll change the way they're built, like it really will. You're going to want less of the Battlecry cards. Maybe, you don't put Shield Maidens in there. Maybe you go really slow and you don't put Alexstrasza in there. Things that you really want their Battlecry. Varian Rain is going to make an impact. There's no denying that Control Warrior, while all you see right now are patrons for the most part, and Control Warrior is actually still very viable. It's still a strong deck. You're going to see many more Control Warriors. It's really going to make an impact in that way. And obviously, these are just 10 examples. There are a lot more other cards that are going to make an impact on the metagame. But these are the ones that I really see as like defining decks or kind of pushing decks over, over the tipping point towards viability. So yeah, TGC is out in a week, and we'll see if I'm right about this. But these are, those top 10 cards that are just, or I guess it's actually, yeah, no, is it 9 or 10? Sorry, I don't even. No, it's only 9. These are the 9 cards. Sorry about that. That I think are really going to impact the metagame the most. So, get excited for TGT. It's out in 5 days. And thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more Hearthstone content. And I'll see you later.